I've just realized it's been over 10 years since I was 18 years old. Absolutely crazy. And with my focus on financial independence and finances in general, I've been looking back and wishing I'd done things differently back then. So I wanted to share some of these things with you to help you not make the same mistakes that I did. Now, I'm really excited to have partnered up with BMO on this video. They are a great company and they have some great financial products on offer. They have kindly sponsored this video, but please note, whilst the video is sponsored, the views are all completely my own. If you're a teenager, hopefully this will help you make some better financial decisions. And if you're a parent and you have a child, share this video with them to help them make better choices for their future. So let's jump straight in. Firstly, don't spend more than you earn. Debt is a slippery slope and you'll be forever chasing repayments and never have financial freedom. Interest on debt is essentially money thrown in the bin. Now, I got my first job when I was 16 and my first full-time job when I was 20. Now, I pretty much got into debt straight away and it's taken me over 8 years to pay it off. Within that time, not only have I paid thousands of pounds in interest to the banks, I've also potentially missed out on thousands of pounds in growth from my savings and investments. Secondly, budget your money. You may not think it matters, and I definitely didn't when I was younger, but knowing what money you have coming in and out each month can really help you stay out of overdrafts and make sure you have enough money left at the end of the month to put towards savings and potentially investments. All you need to do is work out how much money you have coming in, how much money you need to live off of, and then from there decide how much money you have to put towards short-term or long-term savings. Ideally, if you want to keep on top of your finances, setting up a regular contribution to your savings account is a great idea. That way you won't even miss having the money in your bank account, as you won't see it. That brings me to my third point. It's really important to start putting money aside for your future as soon as possible. The longer you save for, the more you can take advantage of something called compound interest. Now, compound interest in simple terms works something like this. You start off with £1,000. Then you might make, say, £10 interest on this. So in the next period, you are now earning interest on £1,010. So you might make £11 of interest. Then your starting point in the next period is £1,021, and so on and so on. Now, once you've decided how much money you are able to save, you should have a think about whether you want to save it or invest it. The current interest rates on cash savings are very low. It's really difficult right now to get a cash savings account that pays you interest higher than inflation. This essentially means that your money can potentially lose value by sitting in a low interest savings account. If you can take the risk that shares will go down as well as up, then investing might be better for you for some or all of your savings. That brings me on to my next piece of advice, which is invest your money. The value that you will get from investing from a young age is indescribable. I used to think, much like you probably do now, that thinking about things like buying a house, having children, or retiring really didn't matter as a teenager. But oh my god, I was so wrong. Honestly, I really wish I had saved like 10 to 20% of my income from a young age. I would be so much better off right now. I would have been able to buy my flat with a much smaller mortgage. I would have been able to achieve financial freedom quicker. I wouldn't have had to rely as much on the 9 to 5. Having an emergency savings account is absolutely key, but keeping any more than that in a savings account isn't really worth it considering the current awful interest rates. As I said previously, with the low interest rates we're having at the moment, it can be really difficult to find a savings account that pays you more interest than inflation, i.e. if your money sits in the bank account, it will lose value over time. So it's really worth considering investments which have the potential to outperform inflation if we look at historical returns. Of course, remember that past performance is not an indicator of future performance. Let's look at this really simple example of how compounding returns work in your favor as a teenager. In reality, it's a lot more complex than this, but this will help you understand the basic concept. Historically, the S&P 500 index, i.e. the index of the top 500 companies in the US, has returned around 8 to 10% per year. Now, for illustrative purposes only, let's assume a 7% return, just to be prudent. For example, if you invested £200 a month for 10 years from the ages of 16 to 26, assuming the stock market return of 7% that we just said, you're looking at around £11,000 of compound returns. Of course, that's assuming you reinvest any dividends you receive. Now, if you invested £400 a month for 5 years, from the ages of 21 to 26, which ends up being the same total of £25,000 of your money invested, you're looking at only £5,000 in compound returns, essentially losing out on £6,000 of extra compound growth. Now, investing when you're a young adult can be daunting, so let's have a look at some of your options. Firstly, let's look at if you are under 18. You may already hold something called a child trust fund or a junior ISA. Now, child trust funds started off with a voucher that the government gave to all children born between September 2002 and January 2011. Some of these are simply savings accounts and some of them are investment accounts. They were replaced by junior ISAs from 2011, which essentially had the same tax protections but weren't started off with the government voucher. If you don't know what an ISA is, it's basically a tax wrapper. So you won't pay any tax on the interest your money makes if it's in a savings account, or increases to the value of your investments, i.e. capital gains. Once you are 16, you can choose to become responsible for your own child trust fund or junior ISA. Now, although you can't take anything out of it until you are 18, you can start to make decisions about it, including changing the provider and what you're invested into. So do some research. Speak to your parents and find out if you already have a child trust fund or junior ISA set up for you. You can usually only have one of these accounts running at any one time. The only time you might have two is if you have both a cash ISA and an investment junior ISA. If you do have an account, find out where it is, what's invested into it, and what it's currently worth. Is anyone making regular contributions to it? And if not, can you start making regular contributions yourself? If you don't have one already, you can set up your own junior ISA from when you're 16 years old. It's not possible to set up new child trust funds, but you can move an old child trust fund or a junior ISA to a new provider. Perhaps if you want to move it from cash to investments to aim for better returns. Of course, be aware that doing this will place your capital at risk, just like with any other sort of investment. Now let's look at if you are 18 or over. If you already hold a child trust fund and it's about to mature, consider moving your investments that you've already built up and building on it using regular savings, as mentioned in the previous point. You'll be so tempted to just take the money and spend it, but trust me, you will thank me later if you don't. If you aren't sure about the child trust fund maturity process, you can find out more by visiting the website linked down below. If you don't already hold a child trust fund, I would still suggest opening up an investment ISA and regularly contributing to it. The beauty of having an investment ISA with a place like BMO is that you don't have to think about what investment decisions to make. Investing into individual companies and making the decisions yourself can be risky, whereas the BMO accounts have fund managers who make these decisions on your behalf in order to maximize your returns as much as possible. Now, if you're interested in finding out more, don't forget to check out the BMO website or follow them on Facebook. Hopefully you found this video useful and you've realized that making good financial decisions early on in life can really set you up for a successful future. Money may not be everything, but it plays a huge role in our freedom, and freedom is happiness. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.